Hey everybody, welcome to this week's episode of Tabletop Tuesday. This is How to Roll Dice. I'm Josh.
I'm Bryant.
And this week we're going to be discussing, for the most part, the Privateer Press release of the Infernals Introduction, which is going to be their new faction. They didn't quite open the CID, but they sort of gave us a pretty bulky hint at how they function as far as the new mechanics they're adding to the game and how they differentiate than the two existing games, War Machine and Hordes. They've said numerous times that they're not really going to be either, and they're definitely not. That's true. They borrow from both games, but they're definitely not either a War Machine or Hordes faction. I'm just curious how that's going to work. Like, what is the packaging going to say? Is it going to be, it's just going to say Infernals instead of War Machine?
They're going to bring, it'd be great if they brought back the old school Privateer Press packaging when it's all black.
Just the straight black.
It's like all blacked out. You have no idea. You actually have no idea what you're getting when you buy into them.
Yep. So it's going to be interesting. But we wanted to start off with that, and then we'll get into some other Privateer Press related stuff afterwards. So briefly, let's go through Infernals, because we know you guys have already sat through like an hour of this, and we don't want to just give you a full recap of everything you've already heard.
That'd be way too long.
Just a few quick bullet points. So, right off the bat, we verified that Thamar did in fact make a pact with the Infernals to give the humans arcane capabilities, and the humans then use those to drive out the Orgoth. That sort of fluff point has been heavily...
And now it's time to pay the piper.
Yes, exactly. It's been heavily sort of like hinted at throughout all of the fluff, but now
we finally have the confirmation.
Now it's confirmed, yeah. So that was a thing. The Infernals themselves are actually being referred to as the devil equivalent, like as far as within the religiosity and the deities in this universe go, which is interesting because up until now, I had always thought of the Devouring Worm, or the Devourer Worm, as the sort of devil character, because of how juxtaposed it is to like the Earth Mother, which is Dunya, or even the human gods like Moro and Menoth. And so
here's my question. Is if the Infernals are the devil equivalent, does that mean Grimkins are actually good?
So sort of, right? So the old witch's whole idea was, oh crap, Infernals are coming, right? What can we do to prevent them from getting as many souls as possible? Oh, we'll just show up on Earth and kill as many people preemptively as we can, send their souls to Urkane, where I'm guessing the Infernals haven't quite figured out how to get to Urkane yet. Otherwise, putting souls there wouldn't... I mean, that'd be a hell of a storyline if the Infernals get like straight through Kane and show up on Urkane and just start like sieging the actual god kingdoms,
just punching
like in the afterlife.
Yeah.
It'd be pretty interesting. So that could be a thing, depending. But so yeah, they're the devil in this universe now. Moving on to actual sort of like models within the army, you've got Infernalists, which are going to be your sort of human type cultists, pretty much anybody that's ever sold their soul to an Infernal for some type of power.
Give me power now, you can have my soul later.
Exactly, and now it's time for the soul to get used up. So they're going to make up the chaff of the army, sort of your standard foot soldier, the meat of your fighting force. They're going to be units, solos, and they're also going to be the one model type, or I believe the one model type, with marked soul, which is a very important mechanic in Infernals. It's new to Infernals, and it has to do with their sacrificing mechanic, which we'll get into in a little bit. But basically, if a unit has marked soul, or if a model has marked soul, it can be plinked off the field, and that is how Infernal Masters, which is their Warlock, Warcaster equivalent, regenerate their essence, which is their Focus Fury equivalent. You're going to hear a lot of that equivalent because, again, this is the first faction to have these things.
Yeah, we still have no idea what we can call them. So
right, I mean, they have names, but we have to compare them to things you know, right? Otherwise, you have no frame of reference for what they do or how they work. And even giving you that sort of comparable frame of reference, it's not 100% how they work.
No,
they vary greatly, but it's a sort of a base level that we can get an understanding for. That's part of why this whole intro
was such an important thing.
Yeah, right, why they felt they needed to do it.
I mean, then we have their Infernal Horrors, which are the equivalent to a jack or a beast.
Yep.
So that's interesting because they run in charge for free.
But
at the end of their turn, they have to pay a tithing, which I feel is very balanced out. You get the fact that you get the run in charge for free.
Yeah.
But if you don't pay that one extra, that thing's gone.
Right. If you don't pay your tithing for each beast at the end of your turn, so if you're the Infernal player, at the end of your turn, each of your beasts has to spend an essence. Or else, if they can't, or they don't for some reason, they just fizzle off the field. They just remove from play, cease to exist. Maybe you can bring them back later, but they're gone for the moment.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter if it's full health. It could be a full health heavy with 35 hitboxes or whatever you want to call them left, and it's gone. So,
which is good. I mean, if that's what you're planning on, like, all right, I'm gonna bring this giant heavy on the table. I'm gonna charge him up,
go all out,
and I'm gonna go all out. I'm gonna do some crazy damage, and if he goes, he goes.
It's almost like a more extreme version of frenzying. If you think about it, instead of just, I pumped my beast full of 5 fury, there's a good chance he's going to frenzy if I can't get that all off of him. This is, okay, my horror started with 5 essence. I burnt it all going through a crazy turn of just slaughtering things. He is now flat out going to disappear from the field, even if he's full health, unless I can get some kind of solo up there or a unit to maybe,
exactly
pop an extra essence on him. I'm assuming they're going to have something like that, like the reverse of a shepherd.
I would assume so, but right. I mean, who knows right now.
So
they don't have animi.
They don't have animi, so they're not quite like beasts. However, they are capable of absorbing damage from your Infernal Master. Your Infernal Master, which again is your Warcaster Warlock, can spend an essence to transfer damage to a horror. And the horror can actually receive that damage even if it is full on essence. So unlike a beast where if it's full on fury, if you're full on essence, you can still have damage transferred to you.
The big thing that they changed up on them, I remember, was they were talking about the circles.
Yes.
So if you get your
webs,
damage
webs.
Damage webs.
Yep.
If you damage starts taken from the outside going inward, but when you start getting healed, you can't actually pick and choose what systems you want to bring back
out. Yeah.
So you're going to be hurting still for a while. So.
Exactly. So when you take damage and you mark, so you've got 3 rings. You've got an outer ring, or part of your web, but it's 3 rings. You've got an outer ring, a mid ring, and then your inner ring. If your outer ring is completely filled, and you can start marking in any direction on that ring itself, it's just once it becomes full. You don't have like
spiral
systems like a grid has, where it's like left arm, right arm. It's just outer ring, mid ring, inner ring. So your outer ring, when that becomes full, what you lose is your capability to run and charge for free.
Yes.
When your mid ring goes, you get -1 to all attack rolls. And if your inner ring goes, that's
then
you're
gone.
You're out of life. So when you heal inside out reverse order, and you cannot choose to just throw a single point on like the outer column to get back your run and charge for free. If you're down to a few points and you're on your inner ring and you heal d6 damage, you're only going to heal up that inner ring and then a little bit of your middle ring. You can't just choose to throw a few points on your outer ring and get back your run charge.
Which is going to be interesting to see. Like, that's going to make you really think 3 to 4 turns ahead.
I feel like it doesn't make them less durable, but it makes them cripple harder. Like, they don't just lose an arm; they lose like so much of what it is.
Right, it's not like a jack where it's like, all right, my left arm's gone, I can't use that.
My shield's gone. Worst case, I go down 2 armor, I still have my beat stick over here. They completely start to lose their core mechanics.
Or with like actual war beast, you can literally just go, screw it. I'll heal up later and take one off.
Yeah, just pick one off where you need it. It's very vital. The way that they heal really changes the way that you're going to look at how you maintain them on the field. Yeah. And that, again, that may sort of shift your mindset to, you know what? I'm just going to burn through all my essence and let them fizzle and remove from play and not pay their tithing at the end.
Yeah, I mean, if it's a horror that's going to come in and do insane amount of damage, it might even
be worth it.
Might even wipe a colossal off the table. If it wipes a colossal off the table and it fizzles out that turn because you don't have any essence on it, that's 100% going to be worth it.
Yeah, that sort of brings up like how these trade. Like how they trade with other models is going to be very...
It's a lot of pay the piper, pay the devil.
Yeah.
Next is you have your masters, which are your warlock warcaster equivalent.
Yep.
There's that word again, equivalent.
Equivalent, yep. Again, because they function in a very unique way. So first off, they allocate essence to the horrors. When the game starts, horrors start with essence up to their essence threshold. Correct. That's another thing with horrors. They have a essence threshold. It's not just that they can be allocated 3 like with jacks and focus. And it's not like with beasts where they can generate up to a point. They are both allocated and allocated against a threshold max, which could be anywhere between, I think they said 1 and 5. I think I heard them mention 1, which is interesting. Maybe some lesser horrors.
I'm thinking like little quick ones. I bet exactly. Like you hit them once, they actually explode.
Yep, something like a Shredder in Legion.
Right, yeah, which would be enjoyable.
So a master and the horrors begin the game with their max in essence up to their stat. A horror has that essence sort of slowly deplete as they use it, whereas a master, it depletes as well as they cast spells with it, as they allocate it to their horrors as they choose. But a master is the only one that can replenish essence And they do that by using that Mark Soul mechanic that we mentioned.
Yeah, they don't generate essence at the beginning of every turn like warcasters do, and they can't also leech it off their beasts.
They don't pull it back off their beasts. It's a one-way street. It goes from them to the beasts. However, they don't lose it either.
No.
So at the beginning of your activation during your maintenance phase, your essence doesn't fall off of your beasts or your master. It stays there. So essence is sort of static. It only goes away when you use it.
Right.
And the way that masters regenerate essence is by removing one of their models that has marked soul from play.
The one thing I do like about it is the fact that all I have to do is take one model off the table to replenish my master fully. You don't have to sacrifice 7 of them to get your 7 essence back.
Brutal. So again, it's still detrimental because, like we said, those units are going to be pretty beneficial. They're going to be your utility units, your repair or your heal units that can go up, or solos that can go up and add an essence to one of your horrors so that it has enough to pay that tithing and not just fizzle from play.
Right, you want to protect them by all means, but you also don't want to keep them in the back because you're going to have some...
They're not capable of doing what it is they need to do. So if you run out of models with Marked Soul, say a combination of them getting killed by your opponent and you plucking them off to regenerate your essence pool so that you can then pass it out to your horrors and cast spells and things like that, all of which uses essence, as well as summoning, which we'll get to. If you start to run out of those models, you're going to be in a real pickle as far as, how are you going to make it through the rest of this game with essentially no focus or fury.
Yeah,
you can cut yourself, like you can stab yourself for one. The way that I believe warlocks can do the same thing. I don't know if warcasters can, but either way, I think warlocks can. It's just you wound yourself, you gain 1, but you're not going to make it through the rest of the game just slowly like hacking off limbs trying to get your essence back.
I mean, my small concern is that you're only going to have like one unit that has Marked Soul on it.
You're going to have to plan for it.
Yeah. Or, unless you can bring multiple units with Marked Soul.
I'm sure you can, but still, your opponent's going to look at those right off the bat and think, that's the thing I have to take out. If you bring Long Gunners with like an attachment or Widowmakers with their solo, the first thing you do is pick off those those models with Marked Soul.
Or even if you have a Colossal that has an awesome range, like Victor with a Siege Cannon.
Yeah, just go in and
5-inch AoE right on top of them. They're not going to be
They're going to be squishy. They mentioned this.
Yeah,
they said the Marked Soul units are most likely going to be pretty squishy, like defense 12, armor 12 kind of squishy.
Yeah, it's not Man of War that are going to be in the back that you can pull essence off.
So they're not going to be survivable, or they're not going to be durable in any way. And so it's going to be a real game of chess trying to keep them where you need them to be so that they're functional, but also safe enough that you're not completely hosed when it comes time to pull one off for your next sort of essence draw.
And summoning is a pretty interesting thing too, because you can summon, you build your army, you build however 75 points that you have. Everything that you can summon is completely off the table. It doesn't even count towards your army, which is
right.
Super cool.
Summoning has nothing to do with what was in your list. So say you're going into a steamroller tournament, you submit your 2 lists. Summoning has nothing to do with what's on those lists. You don't need to list models that you plan to summon anywhere. You can actually just pull any horror that you want out of your bag and stick it on the table. It doesn't even need to be in theme. So we'll touch on the theme real quick. The theme is going to be called Dark Legacy, and that's basically the main benefit of that is going to be that horrors don't have to pay their tithing turn 1.
Yes.
So your first turn, you don't have to worry about that, oh crap, I'm already losing 1, I haven't even done anything. So you run for free most likely, you reposition your horrors to where you want them to be, and you don't have to pay that 1 tithing. So it gets you 1 round into the game without quite hitting that, starting to panic of like, all right, what do I do? How do I make this last? What if I burn through it too quickly? That kind of thing.
Which is going to be awesome to see, if that's how you're going to end up playing, and you're like, all right, I got my army right here, but you know what? I want to start immediately getting horrors on the table. You just start summoning cheaper horrors that are on the table. And now they already have their essence to pay the tithing right off the bat, so that way you don't have to worry about them.
So the way summoning works, the way they explained it was basically the amount or the cost in essence for your master, and only your master can summon, from what we've heard. Only your master can summon. The cost of summoning a horror to the field is the horror's threshold for essence. So if it has an essence threshold of 4, it costs 4 to summon to the field. Now, if you think about most casters or warlocks, and I assume this will apply to Infernals as well as their masters, you're going to have a stat somewhere between 5 and 7, maybe 8.
Unless you're the Harbinger of 10.
Maybe, but I don't think anybody else has 10, right?
No.
So, not that I can think of. But so you're going to be somewhere most likely between 5 and 7.
Yeah.
And so if you're spending 4 to summon a horror onto the field, that's more than half of your essence pool. And remember, that's not coming back. That's not automatically regenerated. You're going to have to sacrifice something for that. And that's on top of the fact that you might want to allocate some of that essence out to your horrors so that the ones that are getting a little low can continue to stay on the field.
This is definitely going to be I need to plan 3 turns ahead and understand what I'm going to do way before.
And not only that, but that plan is going to constantly get fractured when your opponent comes in and picks off a model that you weren't expecting. Might be in a positive way, like maybe they take out a horror that you were planning on allocating essence to, and now you don't have to worry about it. Or maybe they come in and wipe out half of a unit that has marked soul, and now you're just like, well, crap. I'm like 3 turns shorter on how long I can last in this game now.
It's going to be interesting to see, and I'm looking forward to seeing how different people play it.
So, and just a few more things on summoning. When you summon a model, it comes into base to base with your master. It can activate normally, so it can, if it's coming into play, it's full health. It's going to have that free charge, so it could, come into base to base with your master, immediately charge up. Now, let's assume they're going to be kind of fast because they seem like they should be.
Right.
So it swirls onto the battlefield into its cloud of smoke. It immediately charges your enemy's lines. It wreaks all kinds of havoc, or at least it could, except it comes into play with 1 essence. And that 1 essence is essentially going to be the 1 essence that it needs to spend at the end of your turn, that turn when you summon it, or your full turn, I should say, to keep it on the field. If you pop it into play and immediately run it up the field or charge it up the field, and say you make 2 melee swipes and then an extra melee swipe with that 1 essence, you're gone. End of that turn, you're going to fizzle and disappear, unless, again, you have some kind of a solo that can rush up there and plop another essence on it.
Like their form of Jack Marshall.
Yep. So, interesting stuff.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to reading more into them and seeing what they do.
Yeah, so we're planning on covering the CID next week.
Yes.
That's actually going to be up tomorrow, based on when you guys are going to be watching this video. So, and we are on the CID forum, so we'll have full access to all the rules, and we can go over that in detail. Yeah. It's going to be good stuff. So moving on from Infernals, some new model releases. First off, one that we forgot to announce last week, which is the primary one we wanted to touch on.
The Bride of Arcadius.
Bride of Arcadius
is the VIP model, extra model that you get when you sign up for the...
for Mini Crate.
Mini Crate.
So when you sign up for Mini Crate, you get that month's model, which currently this month is the Seeker of Silence, and which is the Librarian Eosian with the shish finger, very nice. On top of that, for signing up, if you sign up, I think it's only if you sign up for
the VIP,
which is the 6 month.
Yes.
Yeah, the 6 month window.
Oh, you get the Bride I think it's you pay the full.
You pay the full thing, so you pay 6 months up front, sure.
Yeah.
And I think you get a slight discount.
Yes, I think so.
The Bride of Arcadius, which is a modification of the Dr. Arcadius model. So, and she's pretty cool.
Yeah, very cool. She's
got like
Bride
the
of Frankenstein
hair.
Yeah,
the big Marge Simpson Bride of Frankenstein hair.
She's holding
It's his injector gun, right?
Her injector gun. Yeah, his injector gun, but she's also holding a baby pig.
Oh, really?
Backwards.
Oh, so like she's gonna stick it in the butt?
Yeah.
All right. Stick it in the butt. Good stuff.
Yeah.
So she's pretty cool. And then another model that I personally wanted to touch on, just because I'm a Rulik player myself, and I find this pretty interesting because we very rarely get models, or at least in the past we have. I feel like they've sort of hit a steady stride where we get 1 or 2 models a year now, which is pretty nice. Is the Steelhead Gunner, which is going to be a new solo that's going to work for both Steelhead, so obviously wider mercenary faction, and also is Rulik in its tag. So that means it's going to work with inside the Hammer Strike theme, which is basically the new Searforge. So if you want to play Rulik specifically, that's the theme you're going to play, which is what I've been playing since Mark III came out. And he actually seems pretty awesome. So he is a solo. He has, just to take a quick look at him here, so he has Tough, which is pretty standard within Rule now. He has a Spray 8, POW 12, I'm guessing it's some kind of a flamethrower or a fire breather shotgun. Something. It's called Fire Breather. It has both continuous fire and is fire type, and he also has a pretty dinky little sword, but who cares? He's 5 hit points, and it looks like his point cost right now is 3, though that could change. He has Desperate Pace, which works for both Rulik and Steelhead, and that's going to be a star action, command range. His command is 8. Within his command range, he can give a weapon crew Desperate Pace, which is going to give them +2 during their normal movement.
Yep.
Very beneficial for the Rulik weapon crew,
which you use a lot of.
Their main artillery piece, which in the theme force you can get for free. It's already pretty slow. I believe its speed is 2 + 1 for each little buddy in the unit that's pushing it along, so its base speed is 4 pretty much. So this would get it up to a 6, which is going to be very nice. He also has a second star action, which is Siege Tactics. So again, target weapon crew or friendly faction weapon crew within his command range of 8 gets siege tactics, which is going to allow it to, or is going to give it a siege weapon, which is going to give it an additional die of damage against huge base models. So you're going to start, peppering shots off against colossals, gargantuans, battle engines. That's going to be great. And then he also has hit the deck, which gives him a little bit of survivability. If he takes damage, or if he would take damage from an AoE, he's knocked down instead, and then while he's knocked down, ranged attacks automatically miss him.
I believe he also has a veteran leadership.
That's right, he does. He has veteran leadership
and Rulik.
Steelhead and Rulik, and that's going to give +1 to attack rolls for all weapon crews within his, or Steelhead and Rulik weapon crews within his 8-inch command range. Again, very nice. I believe that's going to pump up the Rulik artillery to a 7.
Probably.
So standing still 9. I believe they still get the aiming bonus. So that's pretty solid stuff right there.
Yeah.
Excited for him. His model's not quite released, I get that, but his rules are in War Room. If you want to take a look at that, it seems pretty awesome.
Steelhead is getting some pretty cool stuff too.
Yeah, Steelhead's definitely been fleshed out quite a bit. So moving on from that, we had Jordan painting up Gareth 2, the Eye of Vengeance, which is Gareth the Sniper. He's now moved on from his gun blades to just a straight up like Kara Sloan style, was it Barrett 50 cal?
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but it looks amazing.
Yeah, it's awesome. And Jordan did an amazing job painting that.
He was going for red on it.
Yep, he's going with red. It's that kind of glowy red. A lot of times when you see people paint Retribution, they give it this sort of glowy theme where light is just emanating from all different points on the model. And he did an amazing job. I think there's something like 7 or 8 different shades of orange and red and browns, just getting the base armor colors built up to that nice glowy point. And then the gun has this cool frosted barrel effect.
Yeah. And I like that the model itself actually has like a raised up shoulder.
It does. He's really kind of like lifting his arm up, and he's got the gun cocked forward. Like it's pretty good.
Pretty cool looking model. I'm going to look forward to reading more into him.
Yeah. And still definitely enjoying Jordan doing the Let's Paints. Good stuff. Get your paint on.
We actually, if you were on chat, you saw how to roll. Asked him how to, if he had a Spotify painting list.
Yeah, and maybe he'll get that out for us. That'd be pretty cool. Get inside the mind of Jordan Lamb. So moving on from Jordan to us, we got a little bit of work done on some of our models.
Yeah.
Bryant put together.
I built the Victor.
Victor. It's one of the 2 Kadoran Colossals.
And that actually flushed out my entire Armor Core list that I've been playing around with, trying to put models in, take models out, trying to see what I like the most. And then at Capticon this year, I ended up picking up the Victor Conquest box, and I was like, you know what, screw it. I'm gonna just scrap everything, rebuild it from the beginning, and now I'm running Sorsha 3 with, I believe I put in Beasto 9 and Victor, so that's
So that'll be fun to play against.
Yeah.
I unfortunately didn't get any painting or building done for War Machine specifically. First off, because I have pretty much all of my Rulik stuff built and most of it painted, but also because I wanted to get a little head start on some of my Guild Ball stuff. So I put together I bought both boxes from Morticians and I got them thrown together. But more on that on Themeless Thursday if you want to tune in then.
I'm also in the process of sliding over to Grimkin.
True. Yeah, you've picked up quite a bit of Grimkin.
Yep, I have the Death Knell at piggybacks. I got the Hollow Men and Hollow Holden. So slowly but surely.
Yeah. Now you're not planning on dropping Khador entirely, I assume.
No, I've been wanting to play a Hordes faction for
that's true. They are Hordes, yeah. So you'll get a little of both.
I'm gonna get a little bit of both, and it's Grimkin. They look awesome.
Yeah, they are. So we wanted to give you guys a battle report, but unfortunately life happens.
Yeah.
And we weren't able to get any games in this past week. So hopefully next week coming forward we'll have some actual.
Yeah, we did some shopping and we watched we read some cool articles.
Yeah, so we did want to touch on a few articles in place of that. So there were 2 great articles that I came across this week that I sort of shared with Bryant and we delved into. You can find both of these on the War Machine subreddit if you're not already part of the War Machine subreddit. It's reddit.com/r/War Machine. That encompasses all Privateer Press stuff for the most part, Monster Apocalypse, both War Machine and Hordes. It's very active. We've found that since Privateer Press sort of devolved their forums down to a new player access group, which really doesn't help most players.
Yeah.
We found that the subreddit has actually been the most active community. And so we spend a lot of time on there. And there were 2 articles that went up this week, both that I felt were really sort of just interesting reads, but also beneficial in further understanding the game and understanding how the community is looking at the game.
Yeah.
So one can be found over on Ice Axe Miniatures and was written by Crimson1919 or 1919. And that had to do with sort of a deeper look at themes, theme lists, and how they're both a positive and a negative. Like, obviously, since Mark III, theme lists have done a great job of getting people to pick up models and play models that otherwise they wouldn't, because when you're inside of a theme, you're sort of drawn to use a specific set of models, and if you really like a certain caster or really like a certain character model, you're going to find the theme that it works best in, and that's going to cause you to build that group out, which is great. It also makes balancing the game better, because now when they're working on the game, they only have to sort of assume that you're going to be playing within your theme.
Right.
And obviously they're still going to balance across the whole faction, across the whole game, but it helps them target their focus a little better, which I feel like is going to aid towards better balancing. The downside, and it's covered great in this article, is that it sort of pigeonholes you into focusing more on quantity over quality when you're building a list, because within a theme, obviously I think every theme offers you free models based on bringing other models.
Right.
And so it might be, bring 20 points worth of certain types of units and you get this free 6-point solo. Well, in a 75-point list, you can pull that off 3, maybe 4 times. Depending on the exact request from the theme. And so you're really going to feel like it's a downside to not go for those free models versus maybe going after something that would actually be more synergetic with the list.
See,
and that's what I mean by like quantity over quality.
I feel like that falls mainly onto the player. I mean, you got to pick and choose what you want to do. Do you want to play a list that's going to have like a lot of infantry and you're going to flood the field and you're going to make it really hard for your opponent's beat sticks to come in because they have to deal with all that infantry? Or do you want to realize that maybe I'm going to hold off on bringing that 3rd infantry unit and I'm going to bring 2 support solos that are going to go above those 2.
Diversify a little bit, get some more utility. And again, there's
no right or wrong way.
There's really no right or wrong, but the way that Steamroller is being played now, it really drives you to feel like if I don't take those extra models, I'm at a disadvantage because my opponent's just going to outnumber me.
Absolutely.
Even though those free models might not actually be the best things to slot into the army that you've already assembled, your list so far. So it's a great read. Check that out. Another one, which was written over on Party Foul by Charles Sung, I believe is how it's pronounced. It's called Favorable Trading, and that's a very top level, like high-end play article, very detailed, very in-depth, very long, that gets into how to position models, how to avoid things like countercharge, how to obtain alpha strikes against your opponent. And I mean, he breaks distances down to fractions of an inch. He gets into percentages of hitting and scoring damage against your opponent.
It's almost like breaking it down to a science.
It's very much broken down to a science, and you can tell it's coming from a player who's had a lot of top level play, who's competed in a lot of tournaments on like a national, international scale, and who's still humble about his play style, because he mentions numerous times, I've forgotten about feat benefits, and there are times where I've messed up my theme benefits and things like that. And so it's not coming from like a high and mighty kind of level, like I know better than you and here's what you should do. It's very much, here's what I've learned, here's how I understand the game, and here's how I make it work for me. And he's actually grateful that people see him as a top level player. I think the person that sort of encouraged him or gave him the idea to write the article asked him basically, how do you play so perfectly all the time and never make any mistakes? And his response was, well, first off, thank you for thinking that that's how I play. I don't think I do, but here's my thought process on the game. And like I said, it's a pretty long, in-depth article, but it's definitely worth checking out.
Yeah, I mean, how many times I feel like we played against each other and that you forget that the Hammer Strike themeless gives Searforge. All your Searforge have tough.
Right. They have tough, or warrior models have tough, and my Jackson weapon crews get repositioned 3. I don't think I've ever used that rule in like the dozen games I've played since we hopped back into Mark III a few months back.
I mean, how many times you got to remind me that my mechanics heal for +1 because of the Armor Core themeless, or the fact that I have an advanced move
for a unit,
for one unit at the beginning of the game. It's like, those 4 or 5 inches.
It's interesting to see an article that's both simultaneously coming from such a well understood point, but also a point of, everybody makes mistakes. Here are some things you can focus on to get better.
Yeah.
And obviously a lot of emphasis on practice, playing as many games as possible. So that's going to wrap it up for this week. We hope you guys have enjoyed this week's Tabletop Tuesday. Again, I'm Josh.
I'm Bryant.
And this has been How to Roll Dice. We'll see you on Thursday for Themeless Thursday.
Peace.